So let's talk about something that's probably driven you crazy at least once. You're having this amazing text conversation with someone, the vibes are great, and then you just stop initiating for a couple of days. And suddenly, radio silence. Poof, they are completely gone. No, hey, how's it going? Nothing. But here is the kicker. The absolute second you finally cave and text them first, they reply instantly like literally nothing happened. Hey, what's up? Right? We've all been there. It's a uniquely modern headache. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the actual psychology behind this to finally solve the mystery of the disappearing texter.
You know that specific kind of frustration, right? Being the one who always has to start the conversation is just flat out exhausting. You find yourself scrolling through your chat history, just staring at your screen, and you can't help but wonder, am I basically their unpaid communication department at this point? It drains you to feel like the only engine keeping the relationship moving. And naturally, when you're always the one reaching out, resentment starts to build up. You start second-guessing the whole connection, wondering, do they actually care about me, or am I just convenient entertainment for when they're bored?
Now, before we go down that rabbit hole and assume they're just coldly ignoring us, we have to recognize something absolutely crucial. People who never text first aren't necessarily blowing you off. Honestly, there's usually a lot more going on inside their head than you can see on your screen. It's so easy to take their silence as a reflection of our own worth, right? We think, well, if they cared, they'd text. But human psychology is rarely that clear-cut. Silence isn't always empty. Actually, it's often packed with internal anxiety, weird habits, and a whole bunch of unspoken assumptions. So let's play detective for a minute.
Why the silent treatment? Well, it usually comes down to 5 distinct mindsets. Number 1 is the fear of rejection. Texting first puts you out there. Typing hey and staring at that blank screen wondering if they'll even reply, some people will do absolutely anything to avoid that vulnerable feeling. Second, we've got learned independence. Some folks just don't need daily chats to feel close to you. They could go a month without talking and happily pick up exactly where you left off. Third is the fear of being annoying, which is basically imposter syndrome for relationships. Fourth is conditioning. Look, if you always text or call first, their brain just accepts that as the rule. You've essentially trained them to wait for your ping. And finally, the 5th one, a simple lack of interest.
Let's zoom in on that fear of being annoying for a second, because there's a deeply tragic irony here. When someone sits there overthinking, oh, they're probably busy, I don't want to bug them, they just wait and wait. And the crazy part? You're sitting there waiting too. It's exactly like 2 people standing on each other's porches, both thinking, well, I don't want to knock first. It's a total psychological stalemate. You're both paralyzed by overthinking, sitting alone in your rooms, asking yourselves the exact same question, why doesn't this person ever text me?
The truth is, hitting send first is just one tiny, isolated piece of behavior. It absolutely does not give you the full story of how much someone values you. To really figure this out, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. Think about what happens when you actually open that digital door. Do they reply warmly? Do they bring up little details you mentioned a week ago? Are they actually trying to make time for you in real life? The key here is to look at the actual quality of the interaction once it's rolling, rather than just keeping a scoreboard of who started it.
To put this into perspective, think about the difference between an interview and a conversation. We've all had the interview text, right? You ask how their day is? Good. You ask about work? Fine. Did you see that movie? Yeah. It's literally like interrogating a hostile witness who just wants to escape. So frustrating. Now flip that. Contrast it with the person who almost never texts first, but the absolute second you message them, they explode with energy. They're asking you a million questions, dropping old inside jokes, and enthusiastically chatting your ear off for an hour straight. That person isn't ignoring you. They're just terrible at initiating, but incredibly good at caring about you.
In psychology, there's actually a fascinating term for what holds that second type of person back: emotional uncertainty. It's that freezing up you feel when you just don't know what kind of response you're going to get. You see, our brains love predictability, and reaching out of nowhere is a total wild card. Will they reply right away? Will they leave you on read till Tuesday? Will they match your energy, or just hit you with that soul-crushing one-letter K? That emotional uncertainty is a massive roadblock. It makes some folks hesitate so much that their brain basically says, you know what? If I just let them text first, zero risk for me. Problem solved.
Then we have the very real phenomenon of passive communication. Look, some people are just incredibly comfortable living in receive mode. They genuinely love hearing from you. They have a blast talking to you, but they almost never get that spontaneous urge to say, hey, I should message them right now. Why? Usually because their attention is just entirely swallowed up by whatever is right in front of them. It could be a crazy demanding job, family stuff, or let's be real, they're probably just scrolling through random videos at 2 a.m. wondering where the night went. They absolutely love the broadcast, they just haven't figured out how to turn on their own microphone.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the issue, we've lined up our suspects from a fear of rejection to pure passivity. But what's the actual fix here? What should you practically do when someone never texts first? Well, you definitely shouldn't just assume they hate you and instantly block them, but you also shouldn't be endlessly chasing someone who's giving you absolutely nothing to work with. We need a solid, non-toxic game plan to handle this, so you can protect your own energy and stop burning yourself out.
So here's a simple 3-step action plan. Step 1, step back for a bit. Step 2, give the relationship some breathing room. Step 3, observe the effort. Now, there's a huge caveat I need to add here. You are not doing this to play some toxic manipulation game. You're not secretly testing them or trying to punish them. You are literally just pausing your own constant initiation to see what happens naturally. If they eventually realize, oh wow, it's been a minute, and they reach out, that is highly valuable data. If days turn into weeks and you hear absolutely nothing, well, unfortunately, that tells you everything you need to know too.
Because honestly, the goal here isn't to sit around with a literal spreadsheet counting who sent the most first messages this week. It doesn't have to be a perfect 50-50 split every single time. What you're really looking for is whether the effort feels fundamentally balanced. A healthy connection just doesn't require one person to bang on the door all day while the other person passively waits inside to open it. Both of you need to actively participate in keeping the spark alive, even if you do it in totally different ways.
And that brings us right to the heart of this whole thing. The real trick in modern relationships is learning how to tell the difference. Silence is incredibly complex. Like we talked about, your missing texter might be painfully shy. They might be totally overwhelmed by life. They might be terrified of rejection. Or maybe they just default to being a passive communicator. But yeah, sometimes they're just not that into you. It takes real emotional intelligence to read the room here. You've got to look at the whole picture of your relationship to decode what their specific flavor of silence actually means.
So the next time you realize someone isn't texting you first, I want you to stop asking, why don't they care about me? It's completely the wrong question. Instead, ask yourself this one perspective-shifting question. When I reach out, what do they do with the opportunity to connect? Because how they handle that moment, how they show up when that door is finally open, is going to tell you so much more about their heart than who typed hey first. It's all about what happens next. Keep that in mind the next time you find yourself staring at a blank chat screen.